Atomic habits. James Clear. When we think about changing our lives, we often imagine huge transformations, radical shifts, or dramatic decisions that flip everything overnight. But reality doesn't work like that. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, reveals that the real power of personal transformation lies not in grand revolutions, but in small, consistent changes compounded over time. Tiny daily adjustments, almost imperceptible at first, have the potential to build a radically different future. We live in a culture obsessed with instant results. We chase miracle diets, get-rich-quick strategies, and promises of overnight success. However, the greatest successes in life, whether in health, career, finances, or relationships, are born from a silent, cumulative process that's nearly invisible in the beginning. Just like a block of ice only starts melting after several small increases in temperature, the impact of a habit only becomes visible after repeated layers of action. Success isn't a single event, it's the inevitable outcome of an efficient system of habits. James Clear introduces 4 fundamental laws of behavior change, the gears that govern the birth and consolidation of any habit: cue, craving, response, and reward. Each of these acts like a link in a continuous loop. First, something in the environment triggers the cue, like seeing the TV remote on the table. This awakens the craving, the internal impulse to seek satisfaction, in this case, watching television. Next comes the response, the act of turning on the TV and starting to watch. Finally, there's the reward, the pleasure experienced during the show. This cycle repeats itself, solidifying the habit over time. The first law, the cue, shows how environmental triggers automatically spark our behaviors. Often, it's not the desire itself that initiates the habit, but rather an external trigger that activates unconscious behavior. That's why one of the most effective ways to break bad habits is to eliminate or make access to their triggers more difficult. Want to stop eating sweets? Start by removing them from your home. Want to reduce phone usage? Keep it out of your bedroom at night. Controlling your environment is the first step to controlling your behavior. The second law focuses on making the habit desirable and attractive. Our brains are driven by immediate rewards. If we want to form new habits, we must connect them to associated pleasures. For example, if you don't enjoy going to the gym, pair your workout with your favorite music or a show you love while on the treadmill. Over time, your brain begins to associate the activity with pleasure, making the habit easier to repeat. The more enjoyable the activity, the higher the likelihood of it sticking. The third law addresses simplifying behavior. A habit needs to be easy, accessible, and automatic. The lower the initial effort, the higher the likelihood of execution. Small environmental tweaks make a huge difference. If you want to eat healthier, make nutritious foods easy to access, and unhealthy ones harder to reach. If you want to read more, keep a book always visible on your desk or nightstand. The simpler the execution, the harder it becomes to break the habit loop. The fourth law completes the cycle with reward. Every habit needs to feel satisfying. Our brains crave gratification and acknowledgement. Celebrating small wins, like completing 2 consecutive gym days, creates a positive reinforcement loop. And to eliminate bad habits, adding unpleasant consequences to undesirable behavior can be powerful. For example, committing to pay a small fee to a friend every time you skip a workout. Small penalties increase the emotional cost of failure, helping break vicious cycles. Over time, repeating these small practices consolidates habits, making them a natural part of daily life. As James Clear emphasizes, good habits work like compound interest for personal development. Every small repetition strengthens the foundation of who we're becoming. One of the most powerful concepts Clear introduces is that of keystone habits, central. Habits that trigger positive domino effects across multiple areas of life. Imagine a woman who decides to quit smoking and starts running. Soon, she not only abandons cigarettes, but adopts a fitness routine, embraces healthier eating, gains self-esteem, improves her mood, stabilizes her finances, and strengthens her relationships. One single change generates profound, unexpected improvements across her entire life. This effect also plays out on a collective scale. Claire shares the story of a military commander in the Middle East who reduced civil unrest, not with repression, but with a small environmental adjustment. He removed food vendors from the protest squares. Without easy access to food, protesters couldn't sustain long gatherings and returned home earlier. Simple changes in the social environment can have extraordinary ripple effects across entire groups. Another fascinating layer that James Clear explores is how habits are deeply intertwined with our identity. Often, behavior change fails because people try to act against the identity they still carry. For example, someone who exercises merely to lose weight often gives up because they still see themselves as a sedentary person. On the other hand, those who adopt the identity of "I am an active person" naturally integrate exercise as part of who they are. True habit change happens when we transform our identity, not just our goals. This identity factor also explains why certain cultural and religious practices form such powerful and long-lasting habits. Muslims and Jews avoid pork, Buddhists meditate daily, Mormons avoid caffeine. When a habit is rooted in identity, it stops being a simple momentary choice and becomes an almost unquestionable life pattern. That's why linking a new habit to a solid internal belief dramatically increases its permanence. In addition to identity, social responsibility acts as a powerful fuel for habit creation and maintenance. When we feel accountable to others, family, friends, support groups, or spiritual communities, we gain extra motivation to sustain desirable behaviors. Public commitments, accountability partners, or joining groups that share the same values are extremely effective strategies for long-term discipline. Another highly practical tool Clear introduces is the use of commitment devices. These are intentional barriers we create to make bad habits harder to execute. Cutting up credit cards to limit spending, carrying only small amounts of cash, deleting social media apps. These are ways we can architect our environment to favor good decisions and discourage impulsive behaviors. The more friction we create for bad habits, the lower the chances they'll repeat. Even tech companies have started implementing their own versions of these devices. Apple's iOS features screen time monitoring, allowing users to track and limit app usage. Facebook and Instagram have added similar functions. These tools serve as behavioral fences that help users maintain greater awareness and control over their digital habits. Optimized insights. Key teachings identity alignment is the foundation of lasting habit change. Public accountability increases discipline through external responsibility. Commitment devices add friction to undesirable behaviors. Even tech companies are building tools to help users manage modern habits. The deeper a habit is linked to identity, the more resilient it becomes. Mid-video CTA, optimized for engagement. If you're enjoying this deep dive into how habits truly work, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe right now. There's much more coming to help you master your habits, transform your identity, and build systems that create unstoppable momentum in your life. Stay tuned for even deeper insights. As we dive even deeper into the real mechanics of habits, James Clear introduces one of the most practical and powerful concepts for consistent behavior formation: the aggregation of marginal gains. Small, continuous improvements, even if almost imperceptible in daily life, compound over time into extraordinary results. It's the invisible math of exponential growth. A mere 1% improvement each day doesn't create linear results. It compounds exponentially, producing massive differences over months and years. Likewise, small repeated slips in the wrong direction create slow but devastating erosion in life quality. That's why the key to understanding habits isn't thinking in grand goals, but in efficient systems. Goals set direction, systems build daily progress that lead to the destination. Losing weight isn't a sustainable goal. It's the system of healthy eating and consistent exercise that maintains an ideal weight. Earning money isn't merely a target, it's the system of disciplined finances and consistent investment decisions that build wealth over time. Within this system's mindset, habit stacking comes into play. This technique involves anchoring a desired new behavior to an existing habit. For example, if you drink coffee every morning, you can attach a meditation practice immediately afterward. The brain leverages the natural trigger of the existing routine to adopt the new behavior. By linking a new habit to an established one, the effort to implement it drops dramatically, making the process almost automatic. Another essential pillar for sustaining habit development is clarity of intention. Saying, "I want to exercise more," is vague and ineffective. In contrast, declaring, "I will walk for 30 minutes in the park every morning at 7 a.m. creates a clear, measurable, and hard-to-ignore commitment. The more specific the plan, the higher the likelihood of execution. Yet many people quit too soon by underestimating the power of minimal repetition. Here, the principle of the minimum viable habit comes into play. In the early stages, the focus shouldn't be on performance, but on establishing consistency. If your goal is to read more, start with 1 page a day. If you want to build a running habit, simply put on your running shoes and walk a few minutes. The initial objective isn't volume, it's consistent execution. As the habit strengthens, it becomes natural to evolve into greater intensity. But early on, your brain needs quick, easy, consistent wins. Consistency always beats initial intensity. Small daily actions create the momentum necessary for the behavior to gradually become part of your identity. Within this identity-driven framework, James Clear introduces the concept of identity votes. Every time you take an action aligned with your new self, you're casting a vote to reinforce that identity. Every completed workout is a vote for, "I am an active person." Every book you finish is a vote for, "I am a disciplined reader." Identity isn't a starting point, it's the accumulated result of countless behavioral votes. To support this process, Clear recommends using visual progress tracking. Visual records like spreadsheets, charts, habit tracking apps, or even simple calendars create powerful motivational reinforcements. Seeing your own progress creates an emotional reward loop that fuels ongoing consistency. However, even with all these tools in place, we still face a persistent enemy: impatience. The biggest obstacle in habit formation isn't technical difficulty, but the discomfort with slow results. Our instant gratification society has conditioned us to expect immediate outcomes, but real habits operate on a different psychological timeline. There's an initial valley of disappointment where the effort invested has not yet produced visible results. Many give up during this phase, unable to withstand the apparent emptiness between early effort and eventual payoff. But those who persist through this valley eventually enjoy exponential returns as the invisible accumulation finally breaks the surface. This phenomenon is deeply connected to behavioral inertia. The more a habit is repeated, the more momentum builds in the desired direction, and the harder it becomes to stop. Like a train that requires great force to start, but then maintains its speed with far less energy, habits follow this same physical principle. They start slow, but gain momentum and stability through consistency. Beyond repetition, the physical environment continues to serve as a silent architect of behavior. Intentionally designing your surroundings removes the need for willpower. If you want to practice guitar regularly, leave the instrument visible and accessible. If you want to eat healthy, organize your kitchen to make smart food choices effortless. The brain seeks the path of least resistance. The more accessible the desired behavior, the more likely it becomes automatic. In contrast, to avoid bad habits, we must intentionally increase friction. Making undesirable behaviors inconvenient, time-consuming, or complicated significantly reduces their frequency. Deleting social media apps, using long passwords to limit website access, or physically placing credit cards in less accessible places are simple yet effective examples of negative environmental engineering. Clear also warns about the danger of silent, self-sabotaging habits. Many behaviors seem harmless in the short term, but generate devastating effects over the years. Poor eating habits, physical inactivity, growing debt, intellectual procrastination, all follow the same principle of marginal accumulation, only in the opposite direction of growth. They are negative compound interest. That's why daily awareness is critical. What seems small today, whether positive or negative, will inevitably expand over time. The future won't be defined by isolated events, but by the silent sum of thousands of micro-decisions made daily. Optimized. Insights. Key teachings identity votes reinforce who we're becoming, one action at a time. Visualizing progress creates emotional rewards that fuel consistency. The valley of disappointment must be crossed before major results emerge. Behavioral inertia transforms effort into long-term momentum. Designing your environment reduces reliance on willpower. Increasing friction weakens undesirable habits. Negative habits compound destructively over time. Small daily decisions shape the future more than isolated events. If you're starting to see how these habit mechanics really work, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications. You're building momentum right now, and the insights coming up will take your understanding of habit formation to an entirely new level. Stay locked in. We've now reached the stage where most people give up. This is the point where the real difference emerges between those who build extraordinary results and those trapped in the cycle of trial and error. James Clear now takes us into the territory of long-term habit consolidation and mastery over setbacks, failures, and continuous adjustments. Because in the real world, progress is never linear. The challenge isn't starting, it's continuing after the inevitable stumbles. The first principle we must internalize is that occasional failure doesn't destroy a habit. What destroys it is repeated failure. In other words, missing a workout, skipping a reading session, or making a poor food choice for one day has little impact. But allowing that to become the new behavioral pattern creates real decline. That's why Clear teaches the rule of never miss twice. When a slip happens, the focus must shift to immediate recovery in the next cycle. This rapid resilience is what separates amateurs from masters. Another key to habit longevity is understanding the Goldilocks zone of effort. When something is too easy, we lose interest. When it's too hard, we lose motivation. The secret is staying at the edge of your current capacity, challenged enough to grow, but not so overwhelmed that frustration kicks in. Sustainable progress lives in this zone of slight discomfort. James Clear also emphasizes the importance of developing long-term identity. As habits strengthen, you stop being someone who is trying to do something and become someone who simply is. I am organized. I am health conscious. I am financially disciplined. These aren't just motivational phrases. They are cognitive anchors that sustain daily actions almost automatically. To reinforce this identity, Clear recommends using quick, visible feedback systems. The brain responds best to structures that provide visual indicators of progress. Habit trackers, spreadsheets, charts, and simple streak calendars all serve to keep the brain engaged by providing small hits of achievement that fuel ongoing consistency. Another vital concept is habit accountability. This means maintaining some form of external or social monitoring of your behaviors, even informally. A friend, coach, mentor, or support group that monitors your actions adds an external layer of responsibility that greatly increases consistency. Knowing that someone is observing your performance keeps your mind alert and disciplined. But even with everything in place, habits can enter plateaus over time. This happens when linear growth shifts into maintenance stability. At this point, many feel boredom or complacency and abandon what they've built. The key here is introducing strategic variations, small challenges, intensity adjustments, environmental tweaks, or new micro goals. These variations keep the brain engaged while preserving the core system. Clear also warns against over-identifying with rigid systems. While strong identity is essential for habit building, flexibility in adapting routines is what allows continuous growth. When a strategy stops working due to life changes, work demands, health issues, or shifting priorities, the focus should be on adjusting the system rather than clinging to outdated methods. The true habit master is adaptable. As Clear closes his work, he reveals the true engine behind extraordinary results. It's not grand, isolated efforts, but the invisible accumulation of small, correct behaviors repeated with ruthless consistency. Over years, every highly successful person we admire is the product of this incremental construction process. There's no pure talent, superhuman discipline, or infinite willpower. There's a well-designed system of habits anchored in identity, environmental control, continuous adjustments, and extreme patience. True personal transformation doesn't happen in heroic leaps. It happens when your systems are so finely tuned that success becomes inevitable. You don't have to strive for results, you simply live in alignment with your systems, and the results emerge as a natural consequence. Optimized insights. Key teachings. One-time failure doesn't break habits. Repeated failure does. The Goldilocks zone balances challenge and motivation perfectly. Strong identity anchors automatic long-term behaviors. Visual feedback loops sustain engagement and consistency. External accountability dramatically boosts discipline. Strategic. Variations prevent plateaus and boredom. Adaptability ensures long-term habit survival. Extraordinary success comes from small actions compounded over years. Systems, not willpower, make success inevitable. Atomic Habits, James Clear. Atomic Habits, James Clear. Now you hold in your hands the complete blueprint for building atomic habits. But what separates those who simply understand the theory from those who truly transform their lives is execution. Knowledge not applied is wasted potential. From here on, it's your consistency that will shape your new identity. Clear emphasizes that consistency is king. The person you become is the result of thousands of micro decisions you make every day. Whether you choose to work out or skip, eat healthy or indulge, read or procrastinate. Over time, these small choices accumulate into either exponential growth or silent decay. This is why habits operate like compound interest. The longer you maintain positive habits, the greater their return multiplies. Similarly, neglected habits or negative behaviors quietly erode progress, just like compounding debt. James Clear reminds us, focus on building systems, not obsessing over goals. Goals set direction, but systems drive progress. The person who becomes financially free didn't just set a wealth goal. They built a system of consistent saving, smart investments, and disciplined spending. The person who becomes fit didn't simply set a weight loss target. They followed a system of daily healthy habits. Mastery in any area of life is not the result of massive heroic efforts, but rather the result of daily, repeatable behaviors done consistently over years. Winners and losers share the same goals. The difference is always in the system. And here's where long-term patience plays its final role. Many people give up too early because they fail to trust the invisible accumulation happening beneath the surface. True results come after long periods of seemingly slow progress. Just like water boiling at 100 degrees, all the heating that occurred beforehand felt insignificant until that final degree changed everything. James Clear also emphasizes the critical role of environment once again. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. If you want to change your behavior, you must change your surroundings to support that behavior effortlessly. The most disciplined people are often simply the ones who've designed environments that make discipline easy and friction minimal. And finally, he leaves us with one of the most liberating truths about habit mastery. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be consistent. It's not about never missing a day or never making a mistake. It's about always returning to the system as quickly as possible after each deviation. Ultimate optimized insights. The final codes of habit. Mastery execution transforms knowledge into real-life results. Daily micro-decisions shape your identity far more than big events. Habits compound like interest. Small actions multiply massively over time. Systems create lasting success. Goals only set the direction. Winners don't have different goals. They have better systems. Long-term patience is the secret to exponential breakthroughs. You fall to the level of your systems, not your willpower. Your environment silently drives your behaviors. Consistency, not perfection, is what builds unstoppable momentum. If this full breakdown of atomic habits has unlocked new strategies for you, now is the time to take action. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave a like. Because here, we don't just talk about growth, we build it. Each video gives you actionable tools to master your habits, sharpen your mindset, and build the life you truly want. Let's keep growing together, always optimized.